This video I'm going to speak about racism and the martial arts. Somebody left me a comment on my channel and it got me wanting to respond, I guess, in a way. Basically saying to tell me that I should keep my racism stuff and the martial arts separated. First off, I don't think this guy knows what martial arts is at all. Second, I'm not separating anything. Everything's together. Freddy's Modern Kung Fu, Tao Freddy's Modern Kung Fu is pretty much my expression of life. Martial arts to me is life. I'm expressing my Kung Fu to the world. So, people that don't want to hear about racism, go somewhere else. Racism is a strong part of the society we live in. It's a huge problem. And it's because of this ego, of this capitalism. This capitalism promotes racism. Western society is all about racism. Now the West is influencing the East, so the whole world's becoming racist. But this capitalist mentality is essentially what racism is. The ego is racism. So when you develop the ego in very unhealthy ways, it turns into something ugly like racism. So racism is extremely relevant in everything I do and everything I express in the martial arts. In Kung Fu, you see it in almost all the movies. A lot of it is about racism. Mostly a lot of Bruce Lee's movies, when he first started off, is like the racism, Japanese hating the Chinese, and then the Chinese hating the Japanese. It's racism. It's not just black against white. It's not just Asian against white, or white against whatever race. Racism goes through all races. There's a lot of hatred amongst different Asians. You know, like Chinese, Japanese, Korean, whatever. So it's something that's a problem. You see Jet Li's movie, Fearless, it's pretty much about racism too. You see towards the end, he had to fight for his country and fight for equality, fight for respect. You see Ip Man's movie, Ip Man #2 especially, Ip Man #1 was racism, Japanese against Chinese. #2 was the Caucasians against the Chinese. So all these wars is like racism. I just saw like a brief documentary talking about the Vietnam War. So there's Americans against the Vietnamese. So a lot of this war, a lot of this conflict is because of racism. It's because of racism that there's a lot of wars. The Civil Wars, the World War I or whatnot, Nazis, the white power trying to take out all the minorities. See the Holocaust, the Nazis taking out all the Jews. You see with this 9/11 thing, they try to turn everybody against the Muslims. So this is a huge issue. And why am I on YouTube now? Well, one main reason is because of racism. I was in the law enforcement field, working at Northwestern University, police. Experienced a lot of racism and discrimination. I stood up against it, complained, and then I get wrongfully terminated. Now I'm just don't know what to do. Ended up coming up with the Freddy's Modern Kung Fu label. Went public on YouTube. That's why I'm on YouTube, because of racism. I could have possibly settled the issue out of court for an amount, maybe a few $100,000, but I chose not to. I chose to go all the way and sue, try to take him to court. They paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to have people shut their mouth and not speak about racism over there. I chose to speak about it. So these videos about racism, in a way, cost me thousands of dollars. So I'm going to speak about racism. I'm going to speak against it. It's a taboo subject. Nobody wants to talk about it because it's a huge issue. Nobody wants to talk about it. People are scared because it brings up feelings that they don't want to get to know. So we all got to get to know each other. We got to get to know ourselves. And we got to go beyond this racism stuff. But how are we going to do that? When we're trained to believe that we're better than other people based on certain things. Racism essentially is just basically believing you're better than somebody else because of your skin color. Now the society promotes people to believe that they're better than other people. They promote people to believe that they're better than other people because they got a black belt. They promote people to feel better, feel like they're better than other people because they got a college degree. They promote people to feel better than others, that they're better than others because they drive a nice car. They promote people to perceive that they're better than others because they know how to dress nicer. They promote people to perceive that they're better than other people because they have nice homes, or they come from a good family, or they know how to speak properly, or they listen to music that's more not as perceived as ghetto. So we're constantly made to believe that we're better than other people based on whatever qualities. So racism is just an extension of that. That's why it's so hard to end racism, because the capitalistic mindset is grounded in racism. It's grounded in the belief that you are better than the next person based on whatever. Because you're taller, because you're richer, because you're more athletic, because you go to this school. It's based off of this constant comparison to other people. And the West is all about that. The West is all about competition. And as long as it is like that, racism will not stop. The only way racism will stop is from an inner awakening, transformation. Emerging with the whole. The only way that racism will stop is an understanding of the teachings of Buddha. But the West is not about the teachings of Buddha. The West is about the promotion of the corrupted teachings of Jesus. But basically the Buddha will promote peace, love, and compassion, emerging of the one with the whole, which goes beyond racism. So you don't see people as different races, you just see the human being. But the West is not like that. The West doesn't see just the human being. The West will be like, no, that person's Chinese, that person's black, that person's Hispanic. They're all different. They're not the same. This person's better than that person. The West does not view animals as equal. They're just animals, here to serve us, to feed us. They don't care how many cows they slaughter as long as they make more profit. Now the Western mentality is not, like I said, it's not just America. It's pretty much going throughout the entire world. So the Eastern mentality is slowly disappearing throughout the entire world. So when I talk about the West, I'm not just talking about America, I'm talking about the world in general, because the West is influencing so much of the world to be this way. So the East would be like, no, these animals are they're living beings. They are equal to us. So you may have some of the Hindus practice Hinduism who really see the cow as sacred. Or just in general, they just see animals as, they appreciate them more. So it's like us looking at dogs, saying that we're better than dogs because we're human. We're better than tigers and lions and everything out there because we're human. That's essentially what is very similar to racism. Because the racist person will look at another human being that's of another race and say, they're animals, we're human, we're better, they're here to serve us. We'll use them for what we need to use them for our own purposes. They're not equal to us. So that's how the racists will think. Now we maybe say, oh, I'm not racist, but then we'll look at things and we'll look at animals and we just don't care about animals. We'll shoot down a bird, no problem. We'll run over a squirrel and smile about it. will kill a dog no problem, or kill whatever animal. We don't view animals as equal to us. So you may claim that you're not racist, but then if you don't have that compassion for animals, it's pretty much an extension of racism. It's just an extension of this superiority complex that you have within. And everybody, in a way, is raised to have that. Raised because that's the culture we live in. This ego enhancement, where we feel we're better than everybody because we have this strong ego. The only way you can end racism is you got to understand this ego, and you got to know that it's not real, and you got to know how to be a master over it, how to break it, how to get rid of it. When you know that it's not benefiting you or the society around you, you know how to control it and use it for the good, not for the opposite. And this is a very difficult thing to teach in the West, because everything is against it. The people have to be open to learn. But most people are not. And even if they are, these teachings are not easy to find. They're not going to be commercialized. It's going to be hidden. But in some of these movies, they may try to teach people about it, but still, people just don't seem to be intelligent enough to grasp it. They'll just look at a martial art movie and just be like, oh, that's a cool fight scene. But then the entire philosophy that the movie was trying to instill into the viewer's mind, it just basically bypassed everything. They didn't even see anything. They didn't get anything out of the movie whatsoever, other than the fight scenes. And in a way, when I teach, I'm pretty much flipping it. See, most of all my videos are like philosophy videos. I got more philosophy videos than any other videos out there. Because that, to me, is what the people really need. The combat is the least important. The least. The most important that the people mostly need is the philosophy, the spirituality, this deep understanding of themselves, this learning and understanding of this ego. That's the most important. The second most important is the fitness. People just to get healthy. And the least important is the combat. The least important is the combat. That's why I don't even care to teach any of that online publicly. Because the world doesn't need more violence. There's already a lot of guns out there There's already enough violent action movies out there. There's already enough killings out there. There's already enough combat sport out there. There's so much violence out there that I don't need to contribute any more to that. What I need to contribute the most is the opposite of that. And that's where most of all my teachings are grounded, is in the philosophy, the spirituality, in this deep understanding of yourself and the society around you. That's my primary focus. So most of all my videos will be that. And no, I'm not going to separate it, because I integrate it, because, hey, you know, you think you're going to come to me just to learn how to fight or just how to get fit? Well, you're in for a surprise. Because one day I may be teaching you how to get fit. The next day I'm talking about racism. The next day I'm talking about intimacy. How to sustain a relationship, a marriage, or whatnot. The next day I'm talking about how to maintain your hygiene. Next day I talk about nutrition. Next day I talk about creativity. And then I might throw in a video demonstrating some creativeness in the martial art. But it's just, my teachings are on life. Everything. I'm just expressing my growth as a human being. And the people that care to watch, they can watch. But the people that want to pick and choose, this is not the place. There's a lot of other people to learn from that will serve you. But I'm not serving you with this channel. This is my artistic expression of my Kung Fu. I'm not serving anybody. I'm just being completely real. It's not for money. This is just my inner desire to just express myself within. That's it. So people will have a hard time understanding how my channel operates. It's not based for the customer. It's based off of reality, off of complete realness and honesty. So I'll teach you things that you don't want to hear. I'll say things that you don't want to hear. So it's like you go to an action flick. Imagine you go to an action movie. You think it's an action movie, and then you end up seeing a bunch of romance. You know, it's like, you're like, what the hell is going on? You know, but for me, it's like, what I do can't be labeled. Can't be labeled action, romance, comedy, whatever. Whatever I do can't be labeled. So whatever you think is martial art, you come to my channel, you think that you're just going to learn how to kick and punch and that's it. That's not what it is. I'll teach martial art in its entirety. Body, mind, and spirit. Basically, martial art to me is life. So I'm going to express my way of life and also express the things I've learned through my life. When I express the things that I learned through my life, then it adds to your experience. When I add to your experience, then you can develop a lot of wisdom. Because it's almost like living multiple lives. When you learn from other people's experiences, it's like living multiple lives. So when you expose yourself to the wisdom of different sages that might have died thousands of years ago, they're just expressing the things that they've learned in life, and you add that to what you know already, then you could live in a very wise way. You won't have to make the same mistakes that somebody else may have made. So we can't, if we erase history, say we just erased everything that Martin Luther King did, we erased that from our history and our minds, and we just act like it never happened, and then we got to replay that all the time because these same problems keep arising and we never learned from in the past, we're not growing. We need to learn from the past, and then we continue to grow. So when I speak about the past, it's for purposes of growth, so that we could go beyond. If we ignore the past, if we ignore this problem that we have with racism, we're not going to grow. Doesn't matter how talented you are in combat or training or punching and kicking if you're a racist. It all means nothing. You need to fix that problem that you have within first, and then develop yourself in other areas. So this ego is something that we really need to understand, and we really need to learn to master. Because racism is the ego. So we need to train ourselves to understand that we are not this ego. This ego is just used as a tool of communication. We can't allow ourselves to be limited by it. And we can't allow it to be a master over us, where it leads us towards the racist mentality. We gotta learn to know when to drop it, when to make it stop. So for the people that don't like what I have to say, this is another option for you. Every video that you watch from me, just turn off the volume and just learn from my movement. Learn from my silence.